We can choose to deceive a part of people all the time, and a small group of people may believe in our kind of lies, but we can't deceive the entire nation because you can't lie the whole country.
The Iraqi regime has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas and nuclear weapons for over a decade.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope, Saddam Hussein already possesses 2 out of the 3 key components needed to build a nuclear bomb.
The biggest regret of all the presidency has to have been the intelligence failure in Iraq. The weapons of mass destruction is a reason to remove Saddam Hussein. You know, I wish the intelligence had been different, I guess.
The United States and the world faced a choice. Gaddafi declared he would show no mercy to his own people. He compared them to rats and threatened to go door to door to inflict punishment.
It is great to be here in free Benghazi and in free Libya. Jeune
Youth of Libya, Arab youth, the Republic of France want to tell you its friendship.
Tout d'abord, il faut que Sarkozy rende l'argent qu'il a accepté de la Libye pour financer sa campagne électorale.
The moment of truth, it is here.
How many crimes have your country committed in Iraq? How many crimes have everyone else who's so vocal today committed in Iraq and Afghanistan? Have you arrested them? You have not.
You know the impact that this stand of yours...
You're making a lot of noise about putting in state of working for peace between Ukraine and Russia, and you failed to resolve the war. Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Tony Blair went to Iraq and claimed that they are weapons of mass destruction. Did you see anybody standing against that in the United Kingdom and Britain? More than millions of people have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are no weapons of mass destruction. We know what the war is about.
Mr. Secretary General,
have raised up.
You say quite clearly, I would arm Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
You know that the International Criminal Court wants Vladimir Putin to face war crimes charges.
It must start with Tony Blair. It must start with George Bush. It must go to Barack Obama. Then it can go to...
I said to him then, I believe that you are making a huge mistake of historic proportions by supporting everything that is happening there, in Ukraine, by pushing Russia away. I told him repeatedly, by the way.
I want to also speak to Mr. Putin's remarks this morning. You know, America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize, are not going to be intimidated, by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us. Putin's actions are a sign he's struggling. The sham referenda he carried out, and this routine he put on. Don't worry, it's not on there if you're looking, okay? And we're fully prepared to defend. I want to say this again. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch. I'm prepared to speak with Mr. Putin if, in fact, there is an interest in him deciding he's looking for a way to end the war.
We can deceive a part of people all the time, and a small part of people might believe in our lies, but we can't lie to the entire nation, says a former president of United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. Where in this world need to be applied if we have to look on what is happening around the world? If we look at what is happening in Africa, we'll have a clear idea on whom this word deserves to be applied. In this video, if you watch it until the end, you will understand exactly why African countries are distancing themselves from the West, why Africa continent is waking up and distancing, chasing all the France and US far away from their continent. Because in this video, I will show you the truth. I will reveal some of the things that have took place within these 25 years that have passed by, and you will see for yourself on how Africa. They've been the victim of the West lies. They've been the victims of the West mafias. I'm gonna show you the kind of lies that the West managed to lie to the world, including Africa, for the past 25 years. Let us take the fine good example of what has been happening in this world, on what these people have done. And here this time, I just want to give you a very simple and clear example, which I believe you know. Of course, I'm talking about what took place in September 2001 in the US. The entire world was at shock. Yes, everyone, they were shocked on this kind of act which took place in the United States of America, because the terrorists have attacked the United States of America during a day in the eyes of everyone could see on how they attacked the United States of America, isn't it? Seeing all this image, who can resist and not to side with the United States of America? I remember very well during that day, all the countries around the world, all leaders, they showed their support to the United States of America. All the medias, they were busy televising, debating, talking about what happened to Americans. We saw the whole entire world condemning what have happened in America, and which is normal, by the way, because no one could side with the terrorist attack where they had killed innocent people. Of course, everyone, they have to go and show their support to the people of the United States of America. When people of the world, they were busy showing their solidarity to the people of the United States of America, who were expecting maybe the former President George Bush to come and say, guys, thank you so much for your support. We asking you for your help in 1, 2, 3 things. But instead, that was not the case. We saw a man who came and trying to threaten even other states by telling them this.
Rallied a great coalition, captured, arrested, and rid the world of thousands of terrorists, destroyed Afghanistan's terrorist training camps, saved the people from starvation, and freed a country from brutal oppression.
From that moment, we saw an open campaign that allowed militaries to start intervening to any kind of the state around the world, going in without permission, going in without knocking even to the door of those governments in those countries, because if they have to suspect something, if they have to suspect any terrorist activities in one of these countries, they were allowed to go in and attack that country in order for them to stop this so-called terrorist group.
To date, we have arrested or otherwise dealt with many key commanders of Al-Qaeda. They include a man who directed logistics and funding for the September the 11th attacks. Let's put it this way. They're no longer a problem to the United States and our friends and allies. We have the terrorists on the run. We're keeping them on the run. One by one, the terrorists are learning the meaning of American justice.
During that moment, Osama bin Laden, who was the man that they had trained themselves, he was on run and busy hiding after he had committed the act that took place in September 2001. We saw everyone who went in research of Osama bin Laden, and that made them spend a lot of money, and this time we're talking about $2 billion US. I can't calculate it in your currency, but it's quite a lot of money. And we saw how they declare a war in Afghanistan. In reality, the war which they opened against Afghanistan, it has something to do with something else. It was a way of doing a serious mafia business which took place during that time. Oh yep, of course. Because this war, it had nothing to do anymore with Osama bin Laden. This war, it was all about them imposing their leadership over there and fight against something else, because they want to solve some problem. They want to solve some pending business which they had with Afghanistan. But still, to the eyes of the world, they still want to look that perfect. They still want to look like a role model to the world. In the meantime, there was serious crime which was taking place in Afghanistan. Because they had a green light to go ahead and open fire in Afghanistan, of course, it was a good opportunity for them to deal with one of their enemy. And this time, they were busy seeing Saddam Hussein, because Saddam Hussein is a man who had escaped George Bush the father. So they did consider this as a life opportunity in order for them to finish up with Saddam Hussein, because they were considering him as their enemy number one. They want to do all this because they believe that Saddam Hussein, he was not a man who's supposed not to be alive. They consider Saddam Hussein as a monster, and that is how they did decorate him to the world, making everyone believe that Saddam Hussein, he does not love his people. Saddam Hussein is a criminal that the world don't need to have in our days. And that is what they did tell people about Saddam Hussein.
The Iraqi regime has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas and nuclear weapons for over a decade. This is a regime that has already used poison gas to murder thousands of its own citizens, leaving the bodies of mothers huddled over their dead children. This is a regime that has something to hide from the civilized world.
They then push the button to the high level. And this time I'm talking about them going to the United Nations and tell everyone over there that Saddam Hussein is busy organizing a drug that can eliminate his people.
Full of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate in the fall of 2001. This forced several hundred people to undergo emergency medical treatment and killed 2 postal workers, just from an amount just about this quantity that was inside of an envelope. Iraq declared 8,500 liters of anthrax, but UNSCOM estimates that Saddam Hussein could have produced 25,000 liters.
This was a typical American show, complete with stunts and special effects.
This mass discretion that they've been talking about, how far are we? Have them prove to the world or show anyone in the world of what they had as evidence? Because you saw yourself one of the United States Counselor in the United Nations giving or presenting a certain kind of drugs, saying that this is what Saddam Hussein was preparing in order for him to fabricate this nuclear bomb that is supposed to be using against his own people. That time, if you only can say that what this US representative have presented to the United Nations, it was all lies. They will see you like you are against them. They will see you like a criminal who's supporting other criminals. But today, the truth finally came out because it came out from their own mouth.
Did you feel? I felt terrible. I understood the consequences of that failure, and as I've said on many occasions, I deeply regret that the information, some of the information, not all of it, some of the information I presented, which was multi-source, was wrong. And it is a blot on my record. But, you know, there's nothing I can do to change that blot.
But they don't have the courage to admit it. Again here, you will see that it is a pure lies that the US, they have put in place in order for them to launch a war against Iraq. Even though some of their allies, they refused to join them in this war. Even though Jacques Chirac, as a former president of France, and many other leaders who are in NATO, refused to join this war. Of course, once again, they decided to declare war against Iraq.
All the decades of deceit and cruelty have now reached an end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing. My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. I want Americans and all the world to know that coalition forces will make every effort to spare innocent civilians from harm. We come to Iraq with respect for its citizens, for their great civilization, and for the religious faiths they practice. We have no ambition in Iraq except to remove a threat and restore control of that country to its own people.
You heard what the former president of the US, George Bush, have just said. Okay, fine. Let us give him a benefit of doubt. And the video I'm about to play you, it is for you now to see what he have said in his speech and what the people of Iraq, the civilians of Iraq, have suffered from the American soldiers. Again, this is a pure liar because In reality, people of Iraq, they will suffer in the hands of the American soldiers to the point that they have to be eliminated. And no one was talking about it. God never sleeps. They end up making a mistake by releasing this footage.
The British Challenger tanks are spearheading the attack on Basra, but it is proving a lengthy business, resistance stronger than anticipated, and every day more civilians are killed and maimed. As soon as it's deemed safe, those armoured vehicles are bringing in aid to try and win over people here.
Day by day, we are moving closer to Baghdad. Day by day, we are moving closer to victory.
This did not come from any young ones or someone trying to fabricate kind of lie against the US or anyone, but this is something that had to come because a true massacre did took place and many people were eliminated, as you just saw for yourself, and no one was talking about it. If you look into their medias, no one was discussing about it. No one did not want the world to know of what they were doing. Again here, between what the former President George Bush had said and what the American militaries did in Iraq, this will left us with only one question in mind, which is between Saddam Hussein, who was considered and represented to the world as a monster who wanted to destroy his own people. The one was preparing a nuclear bomb in order for him to massacre his own people. And the person who seemed to be in the suit promising people of Iraq, saying that we're not gonna harm them, we're not gonna destroy them, and the next things we see the upside. Who's telling the truth and who's lying? Again, you can tell for yourself that it was all lies.
To date, none of the Iraqi regime's alleged weapons stockpile has been found. White House spokesman Ari Fleischer was pressed today about the broader justifications for the war.
You repeatedly assert that he had
false information that they had against Saddam Hussein. And it took them many years in order for them to accept and acknowledge the kind of crime that they have committed against humanity. Do you know why? Because they don't want the world to see them as a bad people. Because they want to remain a good and fine example for the world. You're never gonna see them acknowledging their wrongdoing. You're never gonna see them apologizing to any nation in the world. Instead, they prefer to do it more secretly among themselves, confessing the kind of crime that they have committed to these countries, but coming publicly and denounce or telling the people the truth on what they have done as a mistake, they don't do that.
The biggest regret of all the presidency has to have been the intelligence failure in Iraq. A lot of people put their reputations on the line and said, the weapons of mass destruction is a reason to remove Saddam Hussein. It wasn't just people in my administration, and that's not a do-over. But I wish the intelligence had been different, I guess.
Again here, you'll see that Bush lied before the war, between the war, even after the war in Iraq. He pretended to say that he was misled by his secret service, who came and gave him false information about Saddam Hussein, which is not the truth, because we all know that there is a lot of secrets. Many people who came forward saying that it was all plans and they had only one mission: to attack Saddam Hussein and to get rid of him. And we are not the one who wrote all these reports.
And the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway.
Sometimes the truth can come out when we least expect it, especially when we pretend to lie, but at the same time, the truth just reveals itself. And this truth came from his own mouth without anyone putting the gun on his head. In the meantime, Iraq is still in a serious crisis. Saddam Hussein was killed and eliminated. Saddam Hussein was killed to a shameless death penalty. Again here we saw the democracy and justice that these people have been preaching around the world. They could not be able to set a fine example because we also saw on how Saddam Hussein was eliminated.
But UNSCOM estimates that Saddam Hussein could have produced 25 1,000 leaders.
This was a typical American show, complete with stunts and special effects.
Tony Blair accepted that they were wrong about Saddam Hussein to an extent that he did an apology of a thug, right? You have never called for his arrest. A man admitting that I was wrong. How many people died there, killed by those people?
How many crimes have your country committed in Iraq? How many crimes have everyone else who's so vocal today committed in Iraq and Afghanistan? Have you arrested them? You
know the impact that this stand of yours...
You're making a lot of noise about putting in state of working for peace between Ukraine and Russia, and you failed to resolve the war. Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Tony Blair went to Iraq and claimed that there are weapons of mass destruction. Did you see anybody standing against that in the United Kingdom and Britain? More than millions of people have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are no weapons of mass destruction. We know what the war is about.
Later on, we saw how they left Iraq in some bad conditions without even helping people of Iraq to rebuild their country that they have destroyed during this war. But again, the same United States of America, like they always want to play the role of the ruling models around the world when it comes to democracy, when it comes to show people fine example, when it comes to be good, to show how they respect their democracy and everything. This time, they jump from Iraq to Egypt in March 2011 during the reign of Mubarak, who was the former president of Egypt. They went in there and put serious conflicts among Egyptians so that they will remove Muammar Mubarak as their leaders. And they did manage to do so. And they jumped from there, go straight away to Tunisia. They did also remove the President Wazizi, who was also in the power during that time. No one sees this coming. This was another way to enter in the Africa Arabic regions, and they had only one mission. Let us eliminate Muammar Gaddafi, like they always do everywhere. They will never gonna declare a war against you if they can't use your neighbors, if they can't bring some conflict through your neighbor regions. We saw it with how they attack Russia via Ukraine, how they are attacking Iran via Palestine, how they attack Iraq via Afghanistan. So this is the games that they usually do time to time, and this time they were in the mission to attack Muammar Gaddafi. Guess who was the driver? Of course, the driver this time was Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the president of France during that time. And Nicolas Sarkozy decided to go and teach people of Libya how to live in democracy by killing their own leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. As the driver of this Western mafia, Nicolas Sarkozy have to come and say this on people of Libya.
Fellow compatriots, if we have to take a decision that can be imposed when circumstances exist, we have the obligation to react against the crisis in Libya, which the circumstance can be very heavy in that region.
President Nicolas Sarkozy briefed a good friend to Muammar Gaddafi. He then decided to just eliminate Muammar Gaddafi for the reasons which himself he knows. And he did all this in the name of the so-called democracy, which he was promising to the people of Libya, saying that once you guys get rid of Muammar Gaddafi, you'll be able to live in a free democracy country. It is if like he did really care about people of Libya. He did a serious propaganda, which each and every Western country have to come and support him. Regardless of all the effort which African leaders they have tried to put in place in order for them to finish this conflict that they had raised in Libya, well, everything seems to be in vain, because Africans had nothing good to say that the West could have considered. This ended up making Muammar Gaddafi to realize that he's all alone and abandoned by everyone, and the West want to eliminate him. So the man was even willing to sit down and have a dialogue to negotiate so that he can see a easy way or a proper way for him to leave power. But that was not in the calendar of the Western, because their mission was to make sure that they have to eliminate him. So therefore, the African Union decided to organize some head of the state in order for them to travel to Libya so that they can sit down with Muammar Gaddafi and try to talk to him so that they'll find a proper deal on how they can finish this war in Libya. Guess what happened? They were stopped in front of the Libyan door. They were not allowed to even land in Libya.
Now, when this problem of Libya started, the African Union, with our chairman who is here now, this gentleman here, they formed a committee of a few of us. I think we were 6. I was one of them. The whole of the African Union gave that committee a mandate to look for a solution for the Libyan problem. Now, on one occasion, I didn't go that time. These excellencies, this one here, Jacob Zuma, and the others, I was not there, but my minister was among them. They entered a plane in Nouakchott in his place. They were going to Libya to mediate. And they were told by NATO to go back. Yes. Said, you go back. Yes, he's here. If I'm telling lies, I'm not the one who invited him, you're the one who invited him. African presidents on an African mission over African soil were ordered by NATO to go back. That NATO has not allowed them to land in Libya. Now, we call this in Swahili dharau, contempt. This is contempt. So now you can weigh yourselves now. Your presidents were ordered by NATO. 6 of them, not one. If it was only 7, maybe you could say. Now, these fellows didn't listen to us. They continued. They killed Gaddafi. Now Libya is in tatters. Up to today.
This word said by Yoweri Museveni, the current president of Uganda, it was also confirmed by the former African Union chairperson called by the name Jamping, is one of the opposition right now in Gabon. This man had to also to come and say these words.
I think they had decided to bombard Libya. I think everything that happened there, it was well planned. I'm not gonna give details, but I believe that they had decided to do so. It was in that context that we were all embarrassed and ignored. What was we supposed to do? What was the governing body have to do in that situation?
Whatsoever took place in Libya, it was well planned. Whatsoever happened to Muammar Gaddafi, it was well planned and well calculated, and they succeeded to do so. Again here, you will see that regardless of the effort which African leaders they put together in order for them to bring peace in Libya, well, it was not in the agenda. All they wanted was Muammar Gaddafi. After then, we all saw that Muammar Gaddafi was assassinated and the Libya was exposed to the eyes of the world. We then saw the same people who had killed Muammar Gaddafi. They went all the way in Libya to start celebrating with these Libyans whom they had fooled.
It is great to be here in free Benghazi and in free Libya. Jeunes de Benghazi,
Youth of Libya, Arab youth, the Republic of France want to tell you its friendship and its support. Viva Benghazi, viva Libya, viva friendship between Libya and France.
We came, we saw, he died.
Few days after then, they asked Nicolas Sarkozy to know, Mr. President, now that you manage to kill and remove Muammar Gaddafi in power, what are you getting in return as a benefit from Libyans? Here's what Nicolas Sarkozy said.
We did what we were supposed to do because we believe it was what is good to do. There is no any agreement. This has nothing to do with mineral from Libya. We are not asking for any preference or any co-pass.
Listening to him talking, you can see on how he promised and saying that we are not expecting anything from Libyans, neither their minerals, because we just want democracy to reign in Libya. But later on, what did we see? Because we're still waiting to see this so-called democracy that Nicolas Sarkozy had promised to the people of Libya. Because what we end up discovering later on, it has nothing to do with democracy. Because we also, former president of US, President Barack Obama, with their alliance, the British, who have to come and acknowledge, saying that they were lied because of the information which they had received. It has nothing to do with Muammar Gaddafi as a bad person they tried to decorate. Instead, it was a false information that they did apply.
President Obama tonight sought not only to make it clear that Libya is not Iraq, but also that he is not President George W. Bush or even President Bill Clinton. Tonight, President Obama's goal was simple: to explain to a public skeptical about the war he's launched in Libya
what we've done, what we plan to do, and why this matters to us. The United States and the world faced a choice. Gaddafi declared he would show no mercy to his own people. He compared them to rats and threatened to go door to door to inflict punishment.
It was Muammar Gaddafi, Obama said, who was the main reason for war. He was about to launch a massacre of his own people.
It was not in our national interest to let that happen. I refused to let that happen.
One question has hovered over this mission: how is it in the strategic interests of the United States to go to war in Libya? Robert Gates, Obama's own Secretary of Defense, complicated matters for his boss on ABC's This Week yesterday.
Do you think Libya posed an actual or imminent threat to the United States?
No, it was not. It was not a vital national interest to the United States, but it was an interest.
Tonight, President Obama sought to explain. He said that standing by while Gaddafi crushed the rebellion could destabilize neighboring Egypt and Tunisia and cast a shadow over the freedom movement sweeping the Arab world. But in the end, it is really a moral case the president is making for war.
Why is George Bush not in prison? Why is Obama not in prison? It is Obama who led the killing of Brother Gaddafi here in Africa. So we cannot allow that.
These fellows didn't listen to us. They continued. They killed Gaddafi. Now Libya is in tatters. Up to today. And the problem did not only end in Libya. It went into Mali. It has gone now into Chad. The whole area is in flames.
Again here, who's telling the truth and who's lying? You see on how they put trouble in this country, they expose it and kill it in economy, all because of lies. They had to go and seduce people of Libya and make them believe in their lies. Now guys, tell me, with all this, don't you think that it tells you something? Don't you think that it alerts you? Don't you think that this kind of lies, it will make you to be revolt against these people? Because not long ago, we all saw how George Bush had to come and confess, saying that he had received false information from his Secret Service.
The biggest regret of all the presidency has to have been the intelligence failure in Iraq. A lot of people put their reputations on the line and said, the weapons of mass destruction is a reason to remove Saddam Hussein. It wasn't just people in my administration, and that's not a do-over. But I wish the intelligence had been different, I guess.
And he had to make Saddam Hussein look like a bad person. They had to decorate Saddam Hussein as a monster that the world don't deserve to have. Now again, we are seeing Nicolas Sarkozy with Barack Obama, with the British, who have to come forward and say that no, we mistaken Muammar Gaddafi because we had received some wrong information. Hope, guys, I'm sorry. If your country, it's been going also through the same thing as Libyans, the same things as Iraq and many nations around the world, I'm sorry, because you can sit and wait. You expect to hear that these people, they can come and apologize. They're never going to come and apologize because they never want to apologize to any country around the world. Instead, they will prefer to keep quiet. They'll come into your country, they'll destroy your country, they'll destroy your economy, they'll put trouble, they'll bring instability in your country, and once they are done with their missions, they'll leave you like that, and that's what we are seeing right now. To make even things worse, we end up discovering some of the truth on why Nicolas Sarkozy, him as a best friend to Muammar Gaddafi, have to betray him and eliminate him.
Écoutez, une valise comme ça.
It was a briefcase opening this way, and there were money inside. During that time, it was around 2006, let's say around 2007, and Mr. Sarkozy was the interior minister. And one day, Mr. Nanussi, who was the Secret Service of Mr. Gaddafi, one day Mr. Nanussi asked me if I can be the one who will bring this money, this amount of money to France, to the Interior Minister. And during that time, then I said, if it was okay, it's okay. Then I asked, how am I going to bring this money inside? And then he was like, no, don't worry, you get in without problem. And then his brother, Ameda, he bring a briefcase that I have to bring in France. What was in that briefcase exactly? There were nothing else than money. About, I think the first one was 1 million. What kind of note was in? It was about 500 notes and 200 notes. In bricks or what kind of, no, it was, and all this money were brand new. But I did not count the money. I opened and I saw, and I have an idea in mind of what was it all about, and try to see on how I can hide it. And then it was like, don't worry, everything will be sorted, because the service, they are alert, they will protect you. They called me because they trust me, because I collect and give. I think the second journey was the one of 2 million, and the third one, the second one, actually all in total it was about 5 million. The first one was 2 million and the second one was 2 million. This is Ziad Tankine. He is a French businessman but original from Lebanon. This man here, the man is explaining, showing the evidence on how he was used by Nicolas Sarkozy and Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. This is the man who was transporting the money that Nicolas Sarkozy had asked Muammar Gaddafi in order for him to sponsor his campaign before he became the president of France. This man gave all the details on how this money arrived into the French Republic, how it was transported, and who collected this money. And all this money we're talking about here, the total amount was about 5 million US dollars. That is the money which made Nicolas Sarkozy to become the president of France. In other words, you can see that Nicolas Sarkozy, he bite the hand that feed him.
ساركوزي هذا واحد أول حاجة.
First of all, Sarkozy, he must give back the money he accepted from Libya to finance his campaign. We have all the proof. We are ready to give everything. But first of all, we asking him to give back the money he took from people of Libya. We helped him, but he disappointed us. We have all the details and bank and evidence to give if it's... This man is the son of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, who have also to come and say that Sarkozy, before he open his mouth, he have to make sure that he pay back each and little cent that he had collect from us, the money that he collect from my father, because it is us who had sponsored his campaign. We gave him the money. Now that he's denying us and killed my father, before he talk about anything, he must make sure that he pay back all the money that my father had given him. This is the son of Muammar Gaddafi, who knew also about the same money that Nicolas Sarkozy had received. The man went far, saying that we have all the evidence, we have all the proof, the necessary proof that we can show to the world that we are the one who made Sarkozy to be the person that he is. He asked help from us. He did ask my father to help him, and we did that. But in return, he did not know how to thank us. Instead, he destroyed our economy. He destroyed our country, says Muammar Gaddafi's son. With all this being said, we end up realizing that this so-called democracy that Nicolas Sarkozy with France, alongside with US and British, they were trying to preach to the people of Libya, actually it had nothing to do with what they were trying to decorate Muammar Gaddafi as someone who wants to kill his people, as someone who does not want to respect democracy, as someone who does not want to leave power. Instead, this was a personal business which Nicolas Sarkozy had to do with Muammar Gaddafi. Nicolas Sarkozy wanted to kill Muammar Gaddafi before the world get to discover what Muammar Gaddafi have done for him. Again, betrayal. After this truth is being revealed, in one of the interviews that Nicolas Sarkozy had with a French journalist, who had to ask him, Mr. President, how possible is it that you as a president of the country, you are busy having a private cell phone whereby you do some mafia or illegal business with certain leaders in Africa? How can we qualify this kind of behaviors if it is not a pure mafia? Well, Nicolas Sarkozy, he was so embarrassed and he took this question even more personal. Then he started threatening this journalist.
Franchement, quand on découvre un ancien président de la République qui a un téléphone caché avec un faux nom, alors les plus gentils vont dire c'est une affaire de cour de récréation, puis les plus méchants vont dire c'est une affaire de voyous, c'est un des méthodes de voyous. C'est très étrange quand même.
Madame, faites très attention au vocabulaire que vous employez. Parce que je ne suis pas quelqu'un qui plaisante, donc vous ne parlez pas de moi comme un voyou.
After that, we then saw later on how the President Nicolas Sarkozy was arrested for 3 years, obviously 1 year. And this affair was treated only by French government and not the ICC. We did not even hear much from the African Union because everything's now, they're on the silver plate. Everyone could see what Nicolas Sarkozy have done in Libya, what Nicolas Sarkozy have done in Africa. But yet, no one talk about it, no one called for him to go and answer about his crime he had committed in Libya at the ICC. Do you know why? Because this so-called International Criminal Court, it is made only for Africans and not for them. I will demonstrate that in a second. Now tell me yourself, how can we not support this African youth who are standing in their numbers against the Western power after seeing all this kind of lies? How do you expect this African youth to continue trusting or believing in what the Western country are saying? How do you expect Africa to continue to associate themselves with the Western power after seeing all this kind of lies that they've been lying to the world? Again here, you will see that African youth, they are not that stupid to not understand what had happened. They are not that fool to not open their eyes and realize that it is about time to rise up and stand so that we can defeat this former colonial power once for all. Well, that was not all. Because after eliminating Muammar Gaddafi and bring this crisis in Libya, this crisis end up spreading all over the Sahel region. Sahel countries start having serious problem with terrorists because of what Nicolas Sarkozy with his friends, they had implanted in Libya. They could not be able to control it anymore. And today, a lot of African countries, they are now suffering. That is how we get to see people such as Boko Haram. That is how we get to see all those rebellions in Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Niger, all over, because of something that they had put in Libya. They bring that instability in Libya, and it ends up spraying all over Africa continent. Regardless of all these things being said, regardless of what they have done to Africans, they have not tried to apologize. They never accept their wrongdoing. They never want to do things in the right way. Instead, they keep on continuing pretending to teach how they respect democracy and expecting Africans to go ahead and continue respecting democracy. But unfortunately for them this time, because this kind of speech could not pass that easily when it comes with African youth. Do you know why? Because this African youth want to do things in a different way. This African youth, they actually have different kind of mentalities. Then they don't want to do the same mistake that our parent, our grandparent, or our forefathers have done before. This same African youth have understand some of the reason why France with the US, they are having their military base all over Africa continent, pretending to say that we are in Africa to bring peace, but yet there's still serious war all over Africa continent. There's still serious conflict spreading from one country to another country. And they end up realizing that what is the use of these people to be having their military base in Africa when we're still having this kind of problem and they're not able to solve it. So these African youth, they are clever enough to understand all this, and they just realize that we are not going to entertain these people anymore. These African youth, they are at the same time watching with their own eyes on what is happening around the world. Of course, all thanks to this same technology that the Western they have developed. These African youth, they are able to see each and every details of what is the Western doing around the world. And this had revolted them. This had made them to understand that we don't need this kind of people to deal with them, because this kind of people, what they will do to us is only to harm us and not to help us to develop our beautiful continent. Was that all? No, I doubt. This time I'm taking you to Ukraine. They went in Ukraine and lied to the people of Ukraine, saying that, no, look, you just have to join in NATO. Once you accept to join in NATO, you'll be untouchable against the wicked and mafia men called by the name of Vladimir Putin. Well, we all saw how Zelensky, as the president of Ukraine, was welcomed in their Congress. They salute him, they introduce him to the world. They did a serious campaign, making him walk in the different red carpet, taking nice pictures with him, shaking his hand, saluting him, and giving him the power, giving him that guarantee, saying that as long as you are with us, Vladimir Putin is not going to do nothing to you. It is just a matter of time. Vladimir Putin will be in the past. But what happened late? Because when we're looking at things right now, things are no more the same. Do you guys still remember the time when Vladimir Putin wanted to negotiate with these people, and the next thing, they could not even give him a chance, they could not even listen to him? China even proposed an idea of trying to be the middleman for this negotiation. They refused, and they even threatened Zelensky, saying that you are not allowed to negotiate with Russia if we have not approved. But today, is that the case anymore? No. Because the same media, this media that used to do campaign for them, trying to make Russia as a wicked nation in the world and them they're the good one, they are now changing language. They are busy telling Zelensky that we don't have any money to give you. Instead, prepare yourself to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. But when everyone were busy asking them to negotiate, they never wanted to negotiate. African leaders went all the way to negotiate so that a proper dialogue can take place between Russia and Ukraine. They refused, they rejected it. They could not even hear what Africans have to say. They had to humiliate the 7 African leaders who went there to try to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine. Why? Because they were so confident that they will definitely win Russia. They were even more sure that Vladimir Putin will be in the past by now. But unfortunately for them, things did not work again in their favor as they planned. Now they're abandoning Ukraine. Ukraine can't even afford the weapons anymore. They don't have drones, they don't have helicopters, they don't have nothing.
It's a very nice piece of kit, according to the soldiers that I've been meeting here. There's just one problem. They don't have enough artillery shells for it.
Again here, this is one of their lies. Since they're used to lie, they will come and seduce you, as they did again with many leaders. And they went all the way to Ukraine and lied to Zelensky, telling him that we are here, we will give you everything that you need, each and every necessary weapon that you need in order for you to defeat the wicked Vladimir Putin. And the men believe in them. But today, you guys, you saw him is now up and down trying to remind them of what they had promised him, which they can't respect anymore. Zelensky has becoming a crying baby.
All of Russia's neighbors are under threat if Ukraine does not prevail. But Ukraine will prevail. And I want you to see it, hear it, feel it. Ukraine will prevail.
All because they could not be able to give him what they had promised him. Was that all? Nope. This time, let us go to what is happening in Gaza and try to show you some of the kind of lies that they came with it again this time over there in Palestine. We wake up in the morning in one of these days and we saw what happened in Israel on what the Hamas group have done, which everyone condemned, as much we did condemn on Pentagon attack. But unfortunately, when it is their turn, they could not be able to only condemn what the Hamas group did to Israel. Instead, they went and put even more fire by bringing a serious conflict between Israel and Palestine. And then we also how Israel end up destroying men and women and innocent children, following them from wherever they're hiding themselves, whether it is in the stadium, whether it is in the hospital, whether it is in church. They could not care, all because they had to go and kill all these people because they believe Hamas people, they are right among them. And we were expecting to see these so-called people who know the right of human, these so-called people who like to preach the good news about democracy, at least they will follow the proper measure in order for them to solve this problem. Instead, we also went all the way to Israel and encourage Israel to go and attack Palestine in their soil. They went on and killed a lot of people. They give billions of money to the Israelis so that they can go ahead and kill innocent people. Where is this so-called democracy that they've been telling us? Where is this so-called human right that they always tell us about, that no, Africans, they don't respect human rights? These are the same people who keep on giving example, telling us that no, we should not believe in someone such as Yoweri Museveni because he's a dictator and is not respecting the right of human. But when they're busy killing people over there in Palestine, where is the right of these people? Again here, you'll see the kind of lies and mafia that these people, they are applying in the name of democracy. Innocent people are being killed each and every day in a very disaster ways. And all this is happening under their eyes and they keep quiet. Instead, they're even sponsoring Israel in order for them to go and finish the whole Palestine. When South Africa, with President Cyril Ramaphosa, decided to go ahead straight to this so-called International Criminal Court, whereby they always try to say that this is the right place to go and bring our problems. Do you still remember on how they treated South Africa with their president? Regardless of the effort that the government of South Africa had put in place in order for them to go and respond this act of genocide against Palestinian people, we were all expecting to see this so-called ICC, the International Criminal Court, to act in favor of Palestine so that we can see that yes, there is a true democracy, there's a true judgment which does not look one side of the story. But we end up seeing this same judgment, giving their judgment in the way that they kind of like afraid of the US. They could not have the courage to condemn the genocide that is taking place in Palestine, because they know that if they have to say that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, that will also expose the Western. This will expose each and every country that has been supporting Israel in all this crime that they've been doing in Palestine. This will actually expose also the US, because they are the godfather to whatsoever mafia that the Israelites they are busy doing in Palestine. They could not have the courage to do so. And President Ramaphosa came and exposed them in his speech when he said this.
The conflict between Israel and Palestine. Some people have said this was a David and Goliath type of contest. As South Africa, we are always ready to do so. We do this because, and as we are aware of some of the risks and the dangers that lie in store, we are being blamed for taking the matter to the very court that they set up. We didn't take this case to a kangaroo court. We went to the very court that they themselves set up in terms of the rules that they set up, and we should not be blamed for doing so. Our success has exposed not only the atrocities that have been carried out, or being carried out by the State of Israel, it also has exposed the moral bankruptcy of those countries who, by their acts of omission or commission, are allowing genocide to take place in Gaza on their watch. And we say this humbly, without pointing fingers.
Here, you will understand that Cyril Ramaphosa lashed out to the US President Joe Biden, who pretend to say that they are Democrats and they do respect democracy. Yet, they are quiet when Israel is busy committing serious genocide. Yet, they keep on saying that they are good example, they are the fine example that the world should look after when it comes to democracy. What kind of democracy is this, my goodness? Democracy that you're allowing to kill other people, you are allowing to destroy the economy of other people, you are allowing to bring instability to other nations. Is this the kind of democracy that they are expecting African, especially African youth, to believe in? Well, in case maybe if they thought that this African youth, they are busy watching Nigerian movie, they are mistaken, because these Africans, they are more focused on the actuality of what is happening in the world, that everyone can see who's doing what and who have done what.
We can't ignore the humanity of innocent Palestinians who only want to live in peace and have an opportunity. You know, the assault on Israel echoes nearly 20 months of war.
No, you sit and watch. Don't say anything. Don't impose any sanction on Israelites, because they are the chosen nation. You can't blame Israelites for them attacking Palestine, because they are with the US. If you condemn them, which means you are also condemning the US, and they will consider you as enemy number one.
You know, I think this notion of international rules is very comfortable for some people to use when it suits them, but they don't believe in international rules when it doesn't suit them, because they don't apply international rules or law equally in all circumstances. So you can't say because Ukraine has been invaded that suddenly sovereignty is important, but it was never important for Palestine. It's very peculiar. If you believe in international law truly, then wherever sovereignty is infringed, it must apply. And this is the point we've been making, that we use the framework of international law unequally, depending on who is affected. And we are arguing that that must change. And one of the interesting changes that has occurred is the sudden movement, because Russia has invaded Ukraine, that we say, okay, let's not allow the Security Council to just have the veto and let it pass. We take it to the General Assembly. When some of us had been calling for the General Assembly to have a greater say, we never enjoyed support. But suddenly today, see, that's where international law begins to mean nothing. Because for some, we see it as a cheating, and for others we see it as a benefit. So our argument is let's revise the international multilateral system to ensure that we observe that post-1948 has arrived.
The United Nations could not even have the courage to condemn all these things. The courage manifested by South Africa government, it is something that needs to be saluted by any Pan-Africans. This is something that most of nations out there in the world, they could not have the courage to do. And South Africa did that by demonstrating, showing that we are also men enough, regardless of what the world is saying. Some even believe that South Africa, they are wasting their time because this is just a drop of water in the oceans. In other words, they're trying to say that it is South Africa versus the US.
The conflict between Israel and Palestine. Some people have said this was a David and Goliath type of contest.
At least South Africa, we managed to do our part. But there's still a lot which need to be done.
It remains vital for us as member states to ensure that we respect and implement the decisions of the court. And I suppose what confronts us now is what do we do if there is no implementation? And that is the question all nations must answer today, because it is a body of the United Nations that has set out these provisional measures. It's not the South African government or South Africa on its own. It is the International Court of Justice. And if its orders are not respected, what does this mean for every other government that commits atrocities against a people? This is the big question that confronts us as the global community today.
When we see a group of people, a country, which is lying, which is manipulating the opinion, which is interfering in other people's business by bringing instability in their countries, by bringing war among these nations, by bringing conflict in all these nations, well, why should we go and question this African youth who's trying to stand on their feet and try to get rid of this Western power? Why should we condemn these Africans who are trying to distance themselves from the Western country? Why should we blame them when they're trying to take the decision which took them a lot of courage, because a lot of generation before them, they could not be able to do it? Why should we go ahead and blame people such as Prof. Lumumba from Kenya, Julius Malema from South Africa, and many more Pan-Africans who are fighting day and night to expose the mafia of the Western power? These African youth have said enough, it is enough. We are done with France, we are done with the US, we are done with the British, all these former colonial, we don't want anything to do with them, because we can see that these people, they've been lying us for so many years. They've been seducing us with their so-called democracy and putting a lot of lies on the table so that we keep on believing in them. In the meantime, they keep on looting from Africa minerals. They keep on making Africa to become even more poor. They keep on destroying Africa and holding Africa to not develop in the way that it's supposed to be. Now tell me something for yourself. Will you have to sit down and pretend like this idea that this African youth they are bringing to the table is not something that we can also all consume in order for us to get rid of these people once for all? These African youth have understood that the person whom we used to applaud and saying that this person always be number one in our class, this person is very intelligent, this person will always study much, they end up realizing that actually is the fullest one, because he never studied that hard. You always steal the result from other students who are more clever. And this African youth, they have understand that the US with NATO country, they have nothing good they can bring to Africans or demonstrate to Africans as a democracy if it is not them who are the one who are busy committing serious crime around the world, who are the one violating the human rights, who are the one put a lot of trouble among nations. So they are not that fine example as they've been trying to pretend to be in front of the world. So again, you can see that these Africans youth have a good reasons which each and every one all over around the world where you are watching us, as long you have the blood of Africans, as long you believe you are a true Pan-Africans, regardless of what color you are, these are the kind of message that you need to welcome and work on it so that Africans can get rid of this Western power. Now that you understand the reason why Africa distanced themselves from the US with NATO country, well, you have also the responsibility for you to do or play your part. Because if you don't do that, one day, your children, your grandchildren, they'll question you. They'll judge you for that. So it is about time for us to revolt ourselves and take our future into our hands and make sure that our future become brighter the way that it's supposed to be, and start making sure that this Africa get to develop, this Africa become united, this Africa get to have its own money, this Africa get to have one army, this Africa have to speak one language. All these are the things that will expose the West even more from what they've been exposed. These are things that will make even other nations out there in Asia, they'll also start understanding that these are not good people to deal with. And it is in that way we'll end up having our true liberation, and we'll start having a proper mutual understanding, respect of one another. Thank you guys for watching this video until now. It was very important. We come again here to tell you some of the lies that made Africans to distance themselves from the Western. We have demonstrated everything for you with the fact, the good example that you are well aware of, or even if you're not aware of, but at least you can catch up the history and you'll see that each and every point we did discuss here, it really did happen, it really took place in this world. So before you leave, make sure that you hit that thumbs up. We'll really do appreciate, because we want you to like this video in your numbers so that this message can reach to many people out there. But if you really did find something beneficial that you would love to hear from us again in our next videos, well, it is very simple. You just have to hit that subscribe button so that whenever we're live here, you will be able to see us again talking to you. And if you find anything that you'd like also to suggest or comment on what we just discussed in this video, of course feel free to drop your comment down in the comment section, because we usually take time to listen to you, also to what you guys are saying in the comment section. Until I see you again, for now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon in our next video. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.